get too loud with the microphone, let me know, and I'll just try to calm it down. So I want to thank Dr. Abston, first off, for having this truth hearing set up. And I also wish to thank the North Alabama Healthcare for All Group, again, for setting up this truth hearing and allowing us to air our experience regarding the medical profession, the insurance industry, and the status of the healthcare systems in America. Also would like to thank Representative Paul and Kenny Anderson, Bernard Simulton, and James Robinson for being with us, along with 2 other community leaders. Okay.
Sarah Crawford. And Jim
Sarah Cooper?
Crawford.
All right. In February of 1958, I underwent an event that still bears its presence on my life and health. On being rushed into a hospital emergency room in Beaumont, Texas, my heart registered 2 beats per minute, as did my respiration. Soon I was in a coma that lasted almost 3 days. The diagnosis was insulin-dependent diabetes mellitus, often referred to now as type 1 diabetes. Of course, I learned that the condition was irreversible and would require an injection or injections of insulin on a daily basis. I remained in the hospital for 14 days under the excellent care of the staff, Dr. James Britton and Dr. Dee Moore. I was 18 at the time, which is an invincible age. And one day I asked the doctor how long now I could expect to live with diabetes. He said, you can live about 2/3 as long as the average person from this point on. And lifespan is about 71, which is 53 years from now. So you could probably live 35 more years, which would put me at 53. And when you're 18, 53 is a really long way off. And I know the doctor offered that opinion in an optimistic manner, and that is how I took it. Well, I've gone beyond that. I'm 73 years old now, so I've lived 54 and a half years with diabetes. My wife, who's a little younger than me and also came down with type 1 diabetes, has had type 1 diabetes for 56 and a half years. Together we've had it for 111 years, and so at least on that aspect of medicine I know a little bit of what I'm talking about. My wife received one of the 50-year medals from the Joslin Diabetic Hospital in Boston, Massachusetts, as she has no real complications from the disease other than a lot of things that go with it. Anyhow, after release, I returned home to Birmingham, Alabama, and was under the care of an endocrinologist. He had the perfect name for a endocrinologist. It was Dr. Alvin Sugarman. He spelled it Shugerman. And in those days, I went to the doctor every 3 months, and he would take a fasting blood sugar sample. Then I'd go eat breakfast and come back to his office to discuss my condition and the regimen for the next 3 months. That's 1 blood sugar every 3 months. Of course, many advances have been made in the treatment of diabetes and other diseases since that time. It's now where I test my blood anywhere from 4 to 5 times a day. The needles used to be about 3/4 of an inch long and a very low gauge. I think they were 18 gauge, which is really thick. And now have insulin pens to deliver in measured amounts. And since 1998, I've been wearing an insulin pump, which time of minutes, was that a 3-minute warning? Anyhow, it mimics the natural pancreas. And I fail to see how workers and retired persons can afford to obtain medical insurance unless they are covered, or medical treatment unless they're covered by insurance. And And having insurance is still a requirement before most doctors would accept someone as a new or ongoing patient. In beginning my working career, I was fortunate to get group health insurance with a small life insurance attached to that. If I'd had to obtain such on my own, it would have cost at least 4 times the normal premium. And with my wife diabetic also for the family, I'm sure it would have been rated up more than 4 times. So it was an impossibility to obtain insurance back then. And if you wanted to go into business for yourself, you better be ready to pay for the insurance. And in the matter of insurance, I think it is essential that this country provide an insurance plan for all persons. And the ultimate setup of that will be a long time coming, I'm sure, but hopefully we can speed it up a little bit. It's a real shame that America rates number 37 in the country as rated by World Health Organizations. I think we have the best doctors, the best facilities. What we don't have apparently is the will to provide medical care to all citizens. There's no real reason for America not to be number 1. And medical treatment in America is the leading cause of bankruptcy, which I'm sure many of you know, and that's primarily for folks without health insurance. And of course, health insurance will require some additional revenue. And what a lot of people don't realize, I think, is that we all pay for the uninsured, whether it be an automobile or health insurance. Things get taken care of, and it would probably be a lot less expensive other than it is now. In the way of medications now, I take 3 generics, or among other things, 3 generics, and they cost me about, each one costs about $0.10 a day, so $3 a month. And that's what the copay is for them. I take 2 other medications and use different things necessary for diabetes control. And on those, I spend $3.33 a day, about $100 a day. That's on top of insurance. My wife pays almost $80 a week in insurance. She's still working part-time, so that's about $4,000 a year. Through the Medicare and supplemental insurance and the Plan B, I pay about $250 a year, so that's $3,000. So we have about a $7,000 premium every year. I was going to talk a little bit about the donut hole, but I suspect I'm running close on time. There is one other thing that I discovered in looking up that I hadn't heard about, and it's covered in the New Health Care Act of 2010, preventing delays in access to generic drugs. Currently, brand name pharmaceutical companies can delay generic competition through agreements whereby they pay the generic company to keep its drug off the market for a period of time. This is called pay for delay, and it's completely unfair, I would say. The 3 generic drugs I pay, like I say, are $0.10 a day, and the 2 prescription drugs are almost $1 a night, or $3.50 a day. And so generics come along. Some of them your doctor doesn't want you to take, and that's fine, but others are acceptable. Along my path, I haven't avoided the complications like my wife has. I had a small stroke in 1991 with no lasting effects, I think. But anyhow, then in 1995, I experienced my first bout with diabetic retinopathy. I went completely blind in one eye. That was sight was restored through laser treatments. When I first got the disease, those type of treatments were unheard of, and I would have been essentially blind at 51. Since that time, I've had about 5 other incidents in one eye or the other, and I think the last one was about 2005. I also had a heart attack in 1998 that required 3 stents, and then I had another heart attack this past October that required an additional stent. That was treated here at the Heart Center, and after they did the catheterization there, they sent me for the operation and stent insertion to the hospital. On the bill, I was charged, they said about ambulance, which I can understand the necessity of it, even though it's just across Madison Avenue. Anyhow, that was $500 on the ambulance trip. The total bill, just a little, just an hour. Well, let's see, anyhow, the total bill that time came through, I was in on a Friday mid-morning and out before noon the next day. The total bill came to $40,000. Insurance picked up about $30,000 of that, and some of it was discounted as insurance companies do. But there are 2 things I thought rather remarkable on the bill. One of them, under the description, is called LOCM, all capitals, 300-399 milliliter per milliliter iodine. 1 ml, 1 milliliter, Q9967. That costs $1,038 for about 0.3 of a milliliter of iodine. There were 2 non-covered items or services, both labeled A9270. And these the insurance didn't cover. One of them was for $815.27. The other was for $46.82. Well, I called Medicare to find out what that was all about. They said, "Oh, that's a hospital code. You'll have to call them." So I did, and found out it was medications that I normally take that were given to me that afternoon and in the morning. They said they'd look into it. So in time, the $860 bill came to $150. And a lot of that's because, if you're on medications, you can't bring your own to a hospital. And you can't have them write you a prescription to pick it up at their drugstore or anyone else's. But, $860 for about 1 full day is a little much. So anyhow, again, I want to thank y'all for coming and bearing with me. And thanks again for these truth hearings.